Hi, I'm Vivian Wei, CEO of Salesforce Unified Agentforce Platform. What happens when a DJ, futurist, and father decides to reinvent learning for the AI era? Alan Smithson, founder of Unlimited Awesome and MetaVRse, went from mixing beats to mixing business and impact. He's using technology to spark creativity, connection, and purpose, helping people learn and collaborate in ways we've never imagined. If you've ever wondered how to stay human in a world powered by agents, this one is for you. Tune in Friday to AI Heroes and Headaches to see how Alan's building a truly unlimited, awesome future. Hey, Alan, so great to see you. And thank you so much
No.
for joining me on AI Heroes and Headaches.
Headaches and heroes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. I'm so glad to be here.
I think when we initially met through LinkedIn, I looked at your profile. You're a father, founder, futurist, author, a DJ. You also have this AI community, Brain Juice. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your amazing journey.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess it started in high school. I was a DJ in high school, and I used to make mixtapes with my friends. I would record the music all night, and then I would take the tapes and then cut them all up into pieces, and then make a bunch of them. And I still have a few of them. And I like down in the basement, I used to handwrite the labels and like all the songs, and I was, I guess, a music nerd back then. And then when I went to university, I ended up living with some DJs and became a DJ in university. But I also got a degree in molecular biology. And so my mom wanted me to be a doctor. I ended up becoming a DJ. I figured it was about the same. No big deal. It's two letters, interchangeable. So ended up becoming a DJ after university. I was a farm rep, and then I started some companies. And then I had my first daughter, Abby. I was working like 18 hours a day, and I didn't have a problem with it. I was enjoying it. But when you have a kid, you're like, it changes you. You're like, I don't want to work
Mhm.
18 hours a day anymore. So I didn't. I became a DJ, and then I worked at nights. So I was DJing, 5 or 6 or 7 nights a week. But my kids would go to bed, and then I would go to work. So they didn't even know I had a job. And so I'd wake up with them the next morning. They didn't even know I would leave. And then as they got older, I would DJ their school dances and stuff. So it was super fun.
Huh?
Yeah, and then we built some
Wow.
companies in between there. So we had a real estate holding company, and we had a medical billing company, and we had a nutraceutical company. And then we also built a hostel. I was snowboarding once at a ski resort, and there was no place to stay, so we built a hostel there. So I've done all these different kind of entrepreneurial things, and then in 2010 we got introduced to this gentleman named Pablo, who
Mhm.
invented touchscreen technology, this giant see-through touchscreen called the emulator. And we ended up working with some of the world's biggest artists. We worked with Linkin Park, Infected Mushroom, Morgan
Mhm.
Page. We worked with some big brands. We worked with Heineken at Coachella. We worked at Microsoft
Wow.
Build conferences.
Uh-huh.
Took us to Sonar in Spain. It was
Yeah.
just an incredible run. And then right near the end of that, before we sold the company or exited the company, right before then, we got invited. I got invited to perform to DJ at Curiosity Camp, put on by
Mm.
Eric Schmidt from Google.
Mm.
It's this camp that they do every year. It's in June, and
Yeah.
it's up in the mountains, and um, it's like no Wi-Fi, no cell service, and you're just meeting cool people. There's
Yeah.
150 people, 50 researchers, 50 entrepreneurs, and
Uh-huh.
50 investors. So it's this kind of eclectic mix of, stir it up and see what happens. And anyway,
Uh-huh.
I had just tried, or I just finished performing, and then I tried VR for the first time that night.
Mm.
Kind of aha moment. I put this thing on. I was like, "What is happening? Why? Whoa! This is magic." So I had this
Mhm.
magic moment with VR, and then
Uh-huh.
so right shortly after there, we exited our company, and I started a company called Shock Creative, which ended up becoming MetaVRse. We built the first MetaVRse company in the world, and
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So that was our claim to fame. We ended up acquiring a technology, became a game engine. So we ended up building the MetaVRse engine, and over the course of a decade, we worked with everything from telcos to mining companies to food
Yeah.
service. We worked with Mastercard, Siemens, Samsung, Mars Wrigley, J.P. Morgan, like Pearson Education. It was crazy because that was the hype wave,
Mhm.
plural,
Right. Yep.
VR, and then AR,
Yep.
and then
Yep.
XR, and then like just 3D in general. So we worked, instead of going after the gaming industries, we went after the enterprise. So we went after training, marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
retail using 3D technologies. So digital twins, training
Mm-hmm.
manual, virtual training manuals, stuff like that. And we were really successful, wildly successful with that. We took the money and kept building the platform. But then, right around that transition between the two companies, between
Yeah.
going from DJ company to MetaVRse, my daughter invented sandals that leave a heart-shaped tan line on top of your feet, a little heart. And so, watching her kind of build this company from 10 years old to
Yeah.
to high school, she ended up selling 3,000 pairs of shoes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like a real going concern. The president of Aldo was mentoring her. She was in Inc. magazine. She was interviewed on all the local news stations. It was really amazing. And so seeing that, and then
Uh-huh.
knowing, because we were also on their, their school council, seeing what they weren't learning. They weren't learning about AI. AI wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really much of a conversation back then anyway. I understand that was the early days, but they weren't learning about VR. They weren't learning about technologies. They weren't learning about semiconductors, or they weren't learning anything about the new technologies that are impacting more people than history
Mm-hmm.
books. So I'm not saying that we don't stop learning a history and geography and science and math, but
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a new lens that we need to look through, and that's the lens of exponential growth. When now the world's entire information in the palm of our hands, in any in our smartphones,
Yeah.
if we have the world's knowledge in our palm of our hands, which we've had for about a decade now, really, with the modern internet, what's
Yeah.
next? And the next phase is like AI, and AI taking actions on your behalf, and agents and all that sort of thing, quite well, obviously.
Right.
And so about 3 years ago, the day that ChatGPT came out, whenever that came out, November 30th, 22, I think, I
Yeah.
stayed up all night like a kid in a candy store. I was
Uh-huh.
literally, oh my God. And I burnt out my battery and had to go and recharge it in the middle of the night. And I stayed up all night. Like, when you were a kid and you played a video game and it just like blew your mind and you had to stay up all night and
Yeah.
get to the past Zelda or whatever. It felt like that moment. And I remember when I left, I had a flight in the morning, and on my cab ride to the flight, I had
Yeah.
this kind of moment where it was like, this is going to change everything. It was kind of that same aha moment where I had with the VR. It was like, VR is going to change human
Yeah.
communications. I was like, AI is going to
Yep.
change how we work. And so I
Mhm.
sent my kids a message. I said, look, you use this app and you're never going to write another essay by yourself again, but understand what it says before you submit it. That was my advice.
Mhm.
And I stand by that advice then. And
Mhm.
since then, we started Brain Juice, which started off as a book club, reading different
Mhm.
books every other week. And then it evolved into like an AI mastermind group. And then recently we took it over about a year ago, and we've grown it
Mhm.
to 30 people. And I think we're at 150 people now, something like that.
Mhm.
We're
Right.
obviously part of it. And there's like the number one futurist in the world.
Yep.
The head of Agentic at Salesforce is on there. We've
Uh-huh.
got Jerry Glenn, who's one of the futurists, the very first futurist. He invented the
Uh-huh.
futurist wheel in 1977. He just
Yeah.
presented to the UN AG annual general meeting like
Yep.
last week in New
Yep.
York on
Yep.
AGI governance. So the people that attend this meeting, it started off like we would show each other tools. Like you'd go, "Hey, here's the new AI
Mhm.
for Canva, or here's the new Gamma, or here's the new
Yeah.
Perplexity, or whatever." And we still do that, but now
Yep.
it's evolved into a philosophical question on, should we be building this? Why are we building it? What
Mhm.
are we building it
Mhm.
for? How
Mhm.
do we make the transition between this linear growth of that we've been experiencing for the last 10,000 years to the
Mhm.
exponential growth curve, and make it as smooth as possible and make it as equitable as possible for most people around the world?
Mhm.
And so that whole conversation for the last decade around technology and the exponential growth of it really led us to understand that the education systems are not going to suffice for what's coming in the future. And so
Mhm.
we tried to
Mhm.
fix it even many years ago, and we realized that you can't fix a system that is designed not to be changed, and that's fine. We just decided we're going to build a new system. So for the last
Mhm.
few years, we've really been planning around building our own new education system called Unlimited Awesome, and the technology just was never there to do it. Now it is.
Mhm.
What we're building,
Mhm.
personalized AI tutor that can learn from the student and give them personalized learnings based on our curriculum. And the curriculum is not a typical curriculum. You don't have
Mhm.
math and science and geography and history. That's for the school systems, and they can use our technology for that. but what we're going to teach is gratitude, mindfulness, positivity,
Mm.
breathing, empathy, ethics, kindness, love, but also marketing, sales, financial planning, investing, tax
Mhm.
strategies,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship, innovation, right? So you're starting to see we're filling in the blanks where school
Yes.
ends, and we can now have this new thing that helps people live their best life. And we're calling it kind of a school for human flourishing.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing story to unpack. You went from like molecular engineering to starting a personalized learning that helps young kids, really like our next generation of leaders, to learn skills that they don't necessarily have in school today. Things like critical thinking is
Yep.
exactly spot on, because we already see those brain studies about how the longer you use ChatGPT and not putting your original thoughts, the more the brain deteriorates.
Yep.
So
It's
this
interesting you
kind of,
said critical thinking
yeah.
because we built a critical thinking tool recently. It's not fully fledged out, but the idea behind it is it gives the student a title, like an article title, and says, you know, a yellow elephant was spotted walking down the I-25 highway today. Is it true or false? Okay, it's false. And it's easy ones at first, right?
I think the point there is like human skills. We need to have AI, put the AI under control, and the best way to do that is continue to improve our own skill
Yep.
set, which goes back to unlimited awesome for the exponential learning and the growth. I want to actually go back a little bit about your daughter.
Mhm.
You talked about, you helped her, worked with her on the sandals business, and now she's being tutored by the Aldo CEO. Tell us a little bit more about that journey as a father.
It was It was interesting. So she's no longer doing that. She's in university now, and she stopped in high school.
Mhm.
She said, "I don't want to do this anymore. I want to focus on high school." And you got to respect that.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting thing. It was really cool to see a ton of really smart adults, in startups and kind of in the
Mhm.
fashion zone, the fashion world. We worked with the Ryerson Digital Media Zone, which is now Toronto Metropolitan University's Digital
Mhm.
Media Zone. We worked with them. And it was neat to see all these different organizations. Even UPS sponsored her. She won the Barbie Entrepreneurship Bursary. So all of these things combined, it was really cool to see so many people rally behind this story, because it wasn't just about, hey, Abby's building a shoe company. It was her
Right.
message was dream big and follow your heart. And so that was
Mm.
the message. And it was just a cool experience. There was some ups and downs. I mean, she went on Dragon's Den, which is the Shark
Wow.
Tank equivalent here in Canada.
Yeah.
And she came out crying because they wouldn't let us go in with her. So she had to do it by herself. And she came
Mhm.
out really, really upset. Um, and that was hard. It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But
You threw her into Dragon's Den.
at the same time,
Yeah.
rejection is a literal part of entrepreneurship. You know,
Mhm.
entrepreneurship has been described as being punched in the face while chewing glass and smiling the whole time. So it's not for the faint of heart. It is hard. And that's why, if you look at our whole curriculum for Unlimited Awesome, we
Yeah.
start with the perseverance castle: mindfulness, gratitude, deep
Mm.
breathing,
Mhm.
exercise, and healthy living. And the
Mhm.
reason is because when you have a healthy mindset, then
Mhm.
you can tackle the big challenges of being an entrepreneur or being entrepreneurial in general. You can be working for
Yeah.
a company and be entrepreneurial, but it takes having an internal mindset and flow,
Right.
and some quick lessons. Like if you're stressed, take a
Uh-huh.
breath and hold it, and then let it out slowly. And you do that 3 or 4 times, your state of being comes down. You don't have to be
Yeah.
stressed, and there you go.
I feel like I'm more centered just doing that for a little bit. I think there are a couple of things I really love, like dream big, follow your heart, coming from a young girl,
Yeah.
living that dream, going through the challenges. It's an amazing story, because we need to see more, frankly, we need to see more women AI, women in data for my day to day. So a lot more of
100%.
that. And
So
then
on
there's
that note,
yeah.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my wife and partner. We actually just celebrated 23 years married
Mhm.
this week on Sunday.
Yeah.
So my wife runs XR Women, which is the largest community of women in virtual, augmented, mixed reality, and AI, in kind of
Mhm.
computer vision and stuff. So they've been meeting for 5 years every Wednesday in
Wow.
virtual worlds. They've hosted thousands and thousands of people. They have 1,600 members from around the world in like
Yeah.
150 different countries, and they've
Wow.
encouraged schools. They've got schools coming on. They've got women in Africa and different parts of Africa now with VR headsets that show up and they learn from other women around the world.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible community, and I'm super proud of her and all of the work that they do at XR Women. And if you want to, anybody wants to join, men or
Yeah.
women, you can go and join. They meet every Wednesday at noon Eastern, and it's xrwomen.com.
I love that. I love that you're championing your wife's success, and she's clearly an amazing community builder over the course of the last 5 years. And then you're training your daughter. I mean, now she's in college, but really like the going back to the resiliency, right? We actually talk a lot about in the agentic enterprise what are some of the mindsets, especially if you want to become an agent manager working a 40-year-old manufacturing business. Everybody's used to the same exact way of doing things. Part of this is rapid iteration and experimentation.
And
Part
being
of this is like
understand that
embrace
it's not all
failing,
going to success. Yeah, it's not all going to succeed. I think
right?
you noted rapid iteration. I think this is not taught in school because we're not taught to try to fail. We're taught to
Right.
only succeed.
Yep.
And like, what if failure was baked into it? It's okay to fail. And I think you're bang on because we've built hundreds of enterprise applications, and I would say
Right.
10 of them were really of great value. I mean, they were all of
Uh-huh.
somewhat value, but none that were like really great value until we nailed those few.
Mhm.
So it's experimenting, it's innovating, it is they call it the bleeding edge for a reason because you're typically bleeding cash. It's true. But as soon as you find that boring thing, boring
Mhm.
is profitable for a business. So you find like that little thing that AI, oh wow, you know what? It turns out it's really good at taking our inventory and organizing it and
Right.
making it available
Yeah.
as a simple SKU metric for a thing. Super boring by any measure. But if you're
Yeah.
a manager of procurement and this solves a big
Yeah.
problem for you and frees up 10 hours of your week, you know, every week,
Yeah.
boring is
This
beautiful.
example was actually quoted by one of my previous podcast
I didn't
guests.
I didn't know that, but yeah, that seems like a useful one.
Yes, totally. Changing the metrics and the changing rewire how the business works in this seemingly small but hugely impactful workflow
Yeah,
to drive business value to the bottom line,
and I
right?
think
And
this
then
is
you
one
can
of
reinvest
the
that.
your whole podcast talks about both things, like the successes and the challenges, and it's
Mhm.
you have to be able to go with both, and I think this is one of the I don't want to say faults of the education system, but it's certainly not a strength that we don't
Mhm.
teach you to fail. Like if you fail in school, you are looked down on like, oh my goodness, you failed. And a lot of the smartest people are so bored in school that because school doesn't also give you personalized ability to learn. So if
Mm,
I'm really, really good at math and I
yes.
scream through the curriculum, I'm stuck. I hit the top. I'm like, I've already
Yeah.
done the whole textbook. Now what? And
Yeah.
meanwhile, I'm terrible at English and I'm falling behind because, it's not my strength. And every student is different in everything. So the
Right.
current education system just pushes everybody, like a ratchet. Whereas the
Right.
real world would be, very multiple levels. And not to mention what we're doing with ours is taking it one step further and saying, oh, we've looked at your Instagram, we've looked at your
Uh-huh.
TikTok, we know you love
Mm,
soccer and robotics and mountain
yeah.
biking. So now the examples that we give you are going to be soccer, robotics, and mountain
Oh,
biking based on that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't it be?
So if I think about it, using you as an example, harnessing the DJ,
Yeah.
the entrepreneur, the molecular engineer,
Yeah.
the father, the author into one, and then create that kind of personalized learning experience
That's
to
perfect.
really like harness what you're extremely good at, but also complement the aspect where you may, and they may not be your strong suits, but kind of surge on the learning through
Yeah,
the curriculum to do a
indeed.
highly personalized training. Okay, so this is awesome. I mean, I have two young daughters, and getting them educated is top of mind for me. How do we sign up? When is it
It's
live? Like,
so you mentioned part of the name. You said it's awesome. The company is just called Unlimited Awesome. So it's unlimitedawesome.com. Very simple. And now here's one other thing. We built a foundation for it. So the idea is that it's a for-profit entity, but it's owned by the foundation. So we donated 95% of the equity to the foundation, my wife and I, and we built all the core technology with our team,
mhm,
and so it will be also Web3 enabled, meaning we're going to have our own token, and so we'll pay for content.
mhm,
Our suppliers for content. We'll pay our mentors to help mentor, and we'll pay our
great.
students to learn. And then investors can invest in that token because investments in our student startups will also be in our token. So the whole
Wow.
economy will be built in our token, and profits will be put back into to buy back the tokens and keep the token price on an increase. So we've really given it a lot of thought of like how do we fund this thing in
Yeah,
perpetuity. We have three
yeah,
business models. The first
yeah.
business model is revenue model rather is tuition. So it's very
Mhm,
simple for a student, anybody over 13 years old, 13, 30, 80 doesn't matter. It's
mhm.
$1 a day. So it's one
Mm.
US dollar per day, paid annually, so 365 annually, and you get access to the entire curriculum, the community, the mentors, the AI tutor, the whole system for a year, and the badges, and you earn the badges. Once you earn
Wait,
all the
so if I want to become AI native, I can just sign up, pay $1 a day. This is like,
so
I mean,
AI
like going to the
Master
gym.
AI Master is one of our badges. There's 56 badges. There's a
Okay,
Perseverance badge, there's an AI Master badge, there's a Tax
right?
Master badge. So AI Master is one of the badges that you would get. It's not just AI, but it's quite comprehensive. Like we teach you
Yeah,
the basics, right? OpenAI or ChatGPT, Grok. We
yeah,
teach you all the major large language models, which one's
great.
better for which, Perplexity
Yeah,
for search, Gamma for presentations, Mid-Journey for images and videos, VO3, like, and it'll always be constantly changing because the market's evolving. But it'll be just this fluid thing where you're kind of learning and trying and doing,
yeah.
and that's it. So it's really going to be a fluid thing that we're just going to test for
Mhm.
KPIs. We've got kind
Yep.
of success, principal KPIs that we're measuring against, and really our success measurement is how happy and successful our students are. That's it. We don't right like school should be. When you look at the school boards, and it's not just a US thing, it's a global thing. When you look at
Mhm,
the stakeholders, they
mhm.
list them as the board, and then the teachers, then
Yep.
the parents, then the students. You're like, no, 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 no. You got to flip it upside down. The only people that matter are the
Mhm.
students, not anything else. Doesn't matter. It's the outcome of the students. Period. Full stop. So
Yeah.
that's what we're building.
In Mandarin, there's a term called stuffed duck. And that's literally like you stuff the student. The students are compared as a duck. And then there's a lot of stuffing of knowledge and information.
Yep,
And doesn't matter if the students are happy or not. There's naturally a lot of pressure because of college entrance exam.
yep,
But I think what you're describing is, hey, if we do the personalized learning, it should be engaging in the
yeah.
first place. And the students would want to come back and have more. And it's kind of like a gift that continues giving and it makes you want to come back more. Also, what I realize is instead of maybe spending time on social media, why don't you just go to this and learn a skill or two every day?
It's exactly what we're aiming for. It's exactly, and one other thing that we took it one step further. In each of the badges, we went and found the top 20 Instagram profiles
Hmm,
that teach those things, and the top 20 TikTok profiles that teach those things. So what we're gonna we haven't figured this out yet, but the idea is that you click one button and it auto
yep.
follows all the badge people that we've identified as positive influences. So it actually changes your social media platform that you're learning stuff instead of just doom scrolling dumb stupid things.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think we have very clear, actionable takeaway. Go to unlimitedawesome.com. And then if you're woman in XR, join XR
xrwomen.com.
women.com. Awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. So
My
great
absolute
having
pleasure.
you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.